Come all you young rounders, and a story I'll tell of the promise of heaven.
All right, welcome back to the Built by Vitality podcast. I am Steve Pinkerton, sitting next to Mr.
Philip Lewis.
On today's episode, we are going to talk about mentorship, and more specifically, do you need one? Should you get one? How do you find one? All those things. I don't know why I started thinking about this. I do. I heard years ago someone ask me at like a seminar or something, what is your perfect day? And it kind of got me thinking, like, that's what a lot of these guys are selling to people is like, how do I get to my perfect day? And I always thought it was interesting because a mentor is usually 5, 10, 15 years ahead of where you are. Mm-hmm. That's why they're a mentor and you're not. Mm-hmm. Well, are you chasing after what they have, or are you chasing after what you want? I think it's very confusing to people when trying to find a mentor that they don't get enamored by what how he or she lives, but what they've specifically done as it relates to what you want to do in your business. For example, if I wanted a mentor to help me at Vitality, mm-hmm. We'll talk about the mentorship that I've had here in a minute, but it doesn't matter to me what car someone drives, what house they live in, where they live. Do they have a beach house? Do they have a mountain house? I would like to know, how successful has their gym been? Now, some people would say, well, if they have those things, they must be successful. Not necessarily. Maybe they're just really bad at managing money and they make really poor decisions with their money. Because I would argue that if you have a bunch of those things, that maybe you're and maybe that's how someone wants to live. That's great. That's not how I want to live. So that's not what I would be looking for. I would be looking for, how does the business operate? Do they run a business like I want to run it? Do they run a gym like I want to run it? Do they have a PT business like we have? That type of thing. And unfortunately, now with social media, it's all about, oh, I'm taking 30 days off, and you should be able to take 30 days off too if you run your business correctly. If you don't, contact me and I'll help find you your perfect day. Yeah. And I think it's become a little bit cheesy. And that's, I used to do a lot of consulting with gym owners, and I started to not enjoy it as much because I couldn't add enough value. I couldn't add enough value because I wasn't aware enough of their specific gym because it was a different location. It was a different demographic, a different culture, a different everything. So what I was finding was I could help lead them in staffing decisions or, coaching policies or whatever it might be, but I couldn't get my fingerprint on the culture within the box or the gym because I wasn't there. I didn't know it. And you can't run a gym like I do at Vitality out in Salt Lake City, Utah, or in New York City, when, there's so many different variables. So that's why I started to kind of slim down and trim down the number of people I was working with. And now I have just a couple. And the only thing that I do with them is I'm a sounding board, more for, I guess, entrepreneurial decisions than I am anything else. And if that's what you're looking for, then go find somebody to help you with that. But I think when people are trying to decide whether they want a mentor or not, I think they're using the wrong criteria to choose
to pick them.
that person. In my opinion, if you have a mentor that has 40 other client relationships, mm-hmm. I don't think that's the right move. Okay. When I was getting programming done for me by Training Think Tank and Max, I love the guy. He's a genius. I was only decently good at CrossFit because of Max. But I look back on it, and Max had a tough job. He's providing programming to a ton of people, Travis Mayer being his main horse. Yeah. I was okay with understanding that, you know what, I'm going to fall behind the pecking order of Travis Mayer because he's got a better chance of making it to the games than I did. In a competition setting, I can understand that. But if it's a business setting now, I want to be someone's priority all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people are being misled because they're not able to get the that one-on-one enough to really get anything out of it. You know, they get that warm fuzzy that they've got like a safety net that they kind of can bounce some things off of.
Yeah. But
I don't think that they're actually getting anything tangible from that outside of just the, you know, like a therapy session. You know what I mean? We've all had PT clients that sometimes they just need to come in and they just need to talk it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where I think some of this kind of gets led astray. And you know, I've never specifically had a mentor here at Vitality. I've never paid somebody to be able to call them and talk to them and email them and be part of a group or whatever. That's just not for me. And again, I'm not telling you that's not for you. I'm telling you it wasn't for me because I wanted to do things at Vitality that I hadn't seen before. I wanted to run Vitality not differently. I don't run Vitality any differently than the majority of gyms out there, but I wanted the culture to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I needed someone to guide me there. And maybe that's me being a little bit bigger ego. I don't know. I wanted to make those mistakes on my own and learn from that way. I was a little stubborn. But I had a lot of people along the way help me and guide me just because I asked questions. I wasn't afraid to say, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Very rarely am I ever the smartest guy in the room, other than when I'm sitting with you doing podcasting.
Yes, of course.
You know? Yeah. But
unless we're talking about certain things.
Yeah, like
scary movies.
Yeah, like scary movies.
I know some things.
For sure. You got it a lot. But that's, you know, I think that's where before you get a mentor and before you financially commit to something like that, I think the bigger question is, can you leverage, can you lean on the professionals around you that have been successful in other areas just to learn from them? And maybe that's an exercise you need to work on and not be so guarded and be a little more vulnerable in the fact that you can ask questions. You don't have to have it all figured out. And that's one thing that I learned very early on is, man, why would I act like I got it all figured out? Why not just learn from everybody? And still to this day, I have no issue. If someone is doing something better than me, man, I will be the first to say, hey, that's really smart. Teach me how to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, before you start paying for these mentorship relationships, I think you just need to look at yourself and say, okay, am I reaching out to these people enough without, and I'm not telling you to take advantage of people. That's the flip side of this is, don't get it twisted on how valuable these people's time really is. And even to this day, when I sit down with the Benhams, it's always on the back of my mind, like, okay, before they come in, I want to make sure I've got everything ready to go so that I can drive this conversation and make sure I'm not wasting time. I hate having my time wasted. Yeah. And I hate even more when I feel like I'm wasting someone else's time. So that's something, just a little side note there. But I think there's a lot of, when you look on social media,
it's everywhere.
It's everybody wants to talk you into joining some group that they can try and mentor you with. And here's my problem. as soon as, and maybe that's what rubbed me the wrong way right from the beginning was, hey, we're gonna run a Q&A with 20 other gym owners, and we're gonna talk about whatever. No, because those other 20 gym owners aren't having the same issues that I'm having.
Yeah.
I have different issues.
If all y'all have 100 issues, y'all might have 2 out of the 100 that are similar, like a billing or some.
And if we are, those are
It's still
dumb issues that
different,
you better figure out on your own. Like,
it's not a
I need an
major-
updated waiver. Oh, well, please let me waste 45 minutes as you explain to me your waiver process. That's I just think that there's the basic the basic questions that business owners have in any field. Those don't need to be. Those aren't the ones that we want to talk about. We want to. If you want a mentor to be able to walk you through how to expand, to be able to walk you through how to buy your own real estate, to how to fix your distribution, logistics, your staffing problems. I get it. Let's go.
Yeah.
But you better find somebody that's done that.
They've already went through it.
And let me be perfectly clear. This whole thing has nothing to do with me getting consulting clients. I'm not taking any consulting clients. I don't want any more consulting clients.
Actually, he's pushing them off to me.
Yeah, there's no part of me because, again, I just had this conversation with someone who was looking to do some work with me, and I said, "Look, man, I cannot provide you the value that you want. I can't do it. I don't have the time for it, nor do I have the motivation. I've put all my time into the 2 clients that I have. That's it.
Yeah.
And even that, it's a lot of time because I want to make sure that they don't wake up one day and they're like, man, what am I even doing talking to Steve? I want to make sure that I'm providing the value. If I can't do that with barely 2 people, how is someone doing it with 40? How are you doing it with a group call with 20 people? And yeah, are you more talented than I am if you can do that? Absolutely. Congratulations. But I'm here to tell you, you're not providing the value. You're not, because you're using a reputation to kind of force feed your way into whatever business setting it is. And you're just kind of fooling people. You're taking things at a very basic level, breaking it down and making it seem complicated that they need you to be able to walk them through that. When the reality is, I want high level thinking. If I'm gonna talk to somebody, I can talk to my staff. I can sit down with you and have a conversation about, hey, what do you think about this programming thing that I want to talk about? I don't need to pay somebody to look at it. I can talk to people that are in the gym that see my program, that have done my programming for 13 years, and get their feedback on it, and be head and shoulders above of what someone from 1,000 miles away is going to tell me about it. So I think those are things you need to think about. And then, for you, for example, let's say Vitality Media. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get this thing off the ground, and it's a slow process. If you're out there and you're looking for, I guarantee you could Google and find 50 people that would be happily take your money and try and teach you something. Mm-hmm. As long as they're in a situation that you want to be in at some point, that your business wants to be at that level, I think it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's just because they've got a flashy car and they've got a really nice camera that we wanted, but we can't afford it, those aren't the things that we should be thinking about or caring about. We need to look at more tangible experiences that we can gain from that individual.
Yeah, that's true. Like the classes and stuff I think about taking sometimes, I'm like, if I see a class online for photography or something, like I just found one that's like $150, and I'm thinking about doing it because I don't think the guy's, like you said, he's not flashy, he's not whatever. I'm surprised I've never heard of him, but I've come across this stuff, and it doesn't flaunt like, hey, join my group, do all this stuff. I had to actually look him up, Google stuff, and I found his little website it has, and he didn't push it on me, and I actually want to take it. He drives a regular car. He doesn't his
Yeah.
photography stuff is, and I'm like, man, I could probably learn something from this guy, and he would give you some quality like learning stuff, as opposed to the guy that's like, hey man, I'm the best photographer out here on Instagram. I got 30 people. I'm only to have 30 slots
Yep.
available. Got 2 left. Like there's like a difference.
Yeah, and the other thing with this is, as entrepreneurs, I guess if you're not an entrepreneur, why would you have a mentor? I guess that's the first, and maybe I'm overthinking this, and maybe you're like, well, I'm not an entrepreneur and I need a mentor. I personally would argue that if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't need a mentor. You just don't. I mean, would you agree with that? It's kind of a pretty legit statement. I understand I'm kind of stepping out there a little bit, but I think it's true, because here's why.
Because if you did, like you said, if you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're trying to make the jump to be one, maybe you need a little mentor to help you start that, or what you
Got
do
it.
but you're
Yeah.
still entrepreneur.
Yeah, you want, and I, there's nothing against someone that doesn't want to create something, and I have no problem with that. But if you don't want to create something, why do you need someone to help you with that? If you want someone to help you find a job, I don't think that's a mentor. I think that's a casting agency. That's
Whatever that's called.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you're an entrepreneur, and here's the problem with entrepreneurs, and what I've had a limited capacity of working with gym owners, and I'm stuck in this one field. So there's a lot of people that are way smarter than I am. But I'll tell you the one problem that I think is across the board: entrepreneurs have a ton of ideas, but they're terrible implementers. They're idea people. And what they need is someone that's not vested in their business to look at this arm's length away and say, dude, that is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Or,
Kind of like the Shark Tank.
Kind of.
There's a lot of times there's people come in and they're all excited about their stuff.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wonderful and them other guys will be like, hey man, you might want to start thinking about your next business.
Yep.
They'll just tell them straight up, and they don't have there's no reason for them to tell you yes or no. They're just like, hey man, I'm not invested in this. I think maybe we should look at this.
That'll lead me on a little bit of a tangent here. That would be the exact opposite of what you need as a mentor. You don't want those people.
Yeah.
You want someone that is not going to benefit from
what you're doing. Yes.
That is another problem that we see a lot is you're going to somebody, pitching them an idea and saying, okay, hey, this is what I want to do. And what they're thinking is, okay, I can get a little return off of this.
From this?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that's good about it is when they say, I'm not investing in this. And the reason I'm not is basically because they can't make any money. They don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So then maybe you're like, well, man, I didn't look at it like that. Maybe I won't.
Yeah.
Maybe I can't scale this business.
But you do need someone to shoot down ideas. And I think I've been really fortunate to have some people around me that I can bounce ideas off of. And I'll be honest, probably, I don't know, 80% of my ideas aren't that great. But when I was younger, I had a little more hair, wasn't around stressed out,
kids.
Hey, I had a lot of ideas, and I fell in love with those ideas. And I could talk myself into like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it.
God.
And I would seek out people based on what I thought that they would tell me. And those were the people that I would ask because I already kind of had an idea of what they were going to tell me.
Yeah.
If I was uncertain if someone was going to agree with me or not, I wouldn't ask them.
You'd ask the person that you knew they would be like, yeah, that's a great idea.
I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then as soon as they said it, I got more excited and I got more invested and I got more tied to it. That's where I think as an entrepreneur, you do need a sounding board. And that's really, the guys out in Tennessee, Brad and Chris, I love those guys, Thunder Valley. The majority of what we talk about are big things like, hey, I want to go buy a building. Hey, I want to move to a different building. Hey, I want to implement this program. They're not,
What do
hey,
you think about my logo?
yeah, what do you want me to do about, should I put stickers or decals on the door? Like that,
It is, yeah.
you don't need anybody. You just need to ask your staff, hey, this
What looks good?
What looks good? But I think that's the things that these guys need to look for. And I think it's cheesy when people say, well, how, what's your perfect day? Well, listen, man, my perfect day, you cannot control my perfect day. Okay.
Yeah.
My kid's not arguing. My 8-year-old eating what I make I make Charlie. So hear me out here.
I'm probably going to take her side.
I actually told my dad, I was having my conversation with my dad the other night. I said, Dad, when's the last time you did this for me? So Charlie's coming home from gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit later than usual. I put a little burger, I fry up a burger in a saute pan full of butter, get it perfect, put little strips of bacon, put an egg over top of it, melt a piece of thick cheese, put the lid over it on low heat so it melts the cheese but doesn't overcook the burger. I toast her bun. I butter her bun. I put a avocado spread. I take an avocado, I mash up the avocado.
Yeah.
I spread the avocado.
Come over after gymnastics.
On the bun. I heated the mac and cheese. Jess made the mac and cheese.
Okay. You still had to heat it up.
I heated it. And I have it plated for her. She walks in the door. I get some ice. You know the ice drink? It's called ice. It's like a Zevia sweetened.
Sparkling ice.
Sparkling ice or something.
Some kind of water, sparkling ice.
I had like some exotic flavor, coconut mango or something. I put that over ice. Ice over ice. Little play on words. I've got that. I fold a little paper towel over, got it all set up. I put it right next to my seat because we sit next to each other on the bar, She comes in, she drops her bag. Her dinner's completely made, hot, sitting there. And I'm telling you, the burger, looked amazing. I cut it in half.
Oh, man.
The egg is kind of like, it's
coming down over the edges. Oh, yeah.
And she looks at it and she looks at me and says, Dad, is there bacon on this?
Oh, my God.
And I said,
no.
Yes, Charlie, there's bacon. And she goes, oh, you ruin every burger. You put an egg on here too? And I'm in the twilight zone. I'm
that's a good burger.
I said, Jess, did you tell her am I getting punked right now? But this is my point is this.
Did she eat it?
She did, but she complained the whole time.
Man.
So, that's when I say what's my perfect day, my perfect day is, look.
That would have went good.
She comes in, she says, hey, thanks for dinner, Dad.
Best dinner ever.
This is a great cheeseburger.
Doesn't work.
With bacon and egg and mac and cheese.
Man.
My point to that whole story is nothing that mentor is going to tell me is going to fix that.
Correct, yeah.
Okay? So when you tell me my perfect day, stop with that. The perfect day, if you guys are waiting for a perfect day, good luck. They happen. Okay, there's no such thing as perfect, first of all. There's good days, there's bad days, and there's just days.
I would say the perfect day would be between when you wake up and you lay your head down at night. The perfect day for probably anybody would be between that time you did what you want.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know. You did what you want. I woke up, and when I went to bed, in between that, I did what I wanted.
Because someone else would say, well, I would be on a beach somewhere. Okay,
well, that's what you would want.
Cool.
Like, whatever.
But I'm on a beach for 2 days, and I'm ready to come home. So it's not that perfect of a day.
What would be perfect is if I wanted to do the beach, and then I left there after 2 days, and I came home because I chose to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I think people need to understand is
no mentor told me that.
A mentor is not going to create a perfect day for you. Now, what they might do is put you in a situation where financially you can set the conditions for a day that you might think is perfect.
Yeah.
But as soon as you think you've got your perfect day, it's going to change. Because guess what? In 5 years, my kid will be 14 and 19.
Oh man.
And
It's different. It's not going to be bacon on a burger. It's going to be different stuff.
Now I'm going to be making food for some punk kid that thinks he's going to take my daughter out, and now I got to start breaking bones. Okay, so a perfect day for me might be I got to stay jacked and tan so I can take care of these young Thundercats that come in, and you know what I mean. So
I'd be scared to death.
oh man, listen.
Me,
you know what I already
Nate,
figured
Brent,
out?
all of us over like bad boys.
You know what I figured out?
What?
No. I'm going to make them come and come to jiu-jitsu with us. So they'll come to jiu-jitsu, and they got Islam,
the night before they take your daughter out.
Manuel,
Oh my
Steve.
gosh.
Let those guys have their way with them. Then I'm going to bring him in and make him do a workout with Trackhouse.
Gosh, oh my.
Can you imagine what would happen if I put Appleby, Brooke, and Shane?
They would come to your house.
Well, I'm just saying, that's right now for all you young whippersnappers that are 14 years old out there that think you're going to date my daughter. Understand, you're going to have to go through a gauntlet out with the jiu-jitsu guys, and you're going to have to go a gauntlet with Marshall and Appleby and the boys in the Trackhouse
I'll tell
crew.
you, whichever one you start at, you're not going to the next one.
But the perfect day evolves every single month of your life, and you just got to get out of this mindset of you get the same people that say, can you leave your business for 30 days? Well, okay, yeah. Do I want to leave my business for 30 days? No, I don't. I'm gone for 3 days from this place. I miss it not because I think it's not being ran correctly. I miss it because I like it.
Because you like it, yeah.
And if you want to leave your business for 30 days, then you got bigger problems.
You don't like it.
So again, you gotta be careful who you're getting advice from. There's a lot of people out there that could care less about you and way more about what they're going to take from you. And when you are looking for somebody, make sure you find somebody that can give you the value of what you're paying for. And let me tell you this, I'll break you the bad news. When you find that person, it ain't going to be cheap.
No.
Because if someone's charging you $100 for a 60-minute call, they're the wrong person because they haven't figured out that their time either. I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm coming out of left field here, but if you're at a point where you're mentoring clients,
$100 is really cheap, man. They don't know.
Man, your time is worth way more than that. So you're gonna have to pay for that person's time, but at the end of that month, when you pay that money, you should think to yourself, man, I'm really lucky that I have the ability to connect with that person, whoever it is. If you're not saying that, then hey, it's time to move on. That's okay. It's all right. A good mentor will understand that, hey, business decisions are made, and there's no hard feelings. When someone wants to move on and try something different, go for it. You know what I mean? They don't own you. They don't have any right to your time. You have the ability to make those decisions. So, those are just the things that I've seen throughout the last 13 years, just in the fitness industry. There's some sharks out there, man, and all they're trying to do is make you feel like you have to have them. You need them to be successful, or they post just enough stuff so that you look at what they have and you get enamored by, whatever. But here's the other thing. There's a lot of successful people out there that are working 19, 20 hours a day to keep up with that persona, and that's not me. I don't want to work 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
I get on Jess all the time. I think there's got to be a natural break. When I go home at night, very rarely am I doing work.
Yeah.
Very rarely. And I used to be bad about that. I used to always pride myself on texting and taking work home and calling and emailing. Forget that. Because I just, there were so many mistakes that I made as a parent and a spouse that I let that steal time from me. And so many people become obsessed over work, and I think being obsessed with what you do is positive. It's healthy to an extent, but there's got to be a point that you draw a line in the sand and say, hey, you know what? It's all going to be here tomorrow. Someone posted something a couple days ago. It was so simple, and it resonated with me. It had a picture of Earth, and then it said, This was Earth before your bad decision. This was Earth after your bad decision. It's the same
The same
picture.
thing,
you know,
yeah.
it's like, it's such a simple thing, but you know,
Not much changed.
we become a little bit over obsessive, ultra obsessive with our work, and we end up letting it affect so many different areas of our life, and it makes us worse at what we do instead of just being able to say, you know what, and the last thing I'll tell you is, I just yesterday sent an email. I was frustrated. I wasn't mad, but I was frustrated with something, and I sent it really quick.
Oh.
And as soon as I did, it didn't say anything bad. I didn't read through it enough. And when I read the email, I read it in a way of how I wanted it to read because I was already upset, instead of reading it in the way that it actually talked about. And so I responded really quickly. And when I got home, as soon as I got home, it just hit me like, oh, I bet you they meant this. And then I went back and read the email and realized they meant exactly what I was saying. And I jumped in really quick and kind of was aggressive with it and kind of looked like an idiot because what they were talking about was already there. And what I mean by that is when you get too obsessed with something, man, you get clouded by that and you start to make bad decisions. If you just let it sit, why let it upset you? Why let that stuff go? And I think those are the things that if a mentor can teach you, then it's worth every penny of it. If a mentor is there to help you frame your mindset in the right way and look at your business in a different way, bounce some ideas off them so that they can give you some honest feedback, then great. Let's go get it. Go find somebody. And there are people out there that are good. But if you're looking at other things like basic stupid stuff, and I don't mean that, that's mean.
Do you want a G-Wagon too?
Yeah.
Join my group.
I don't mean stupid stuff like, the questions you have are stupid. I just mean you don't need to pay for those answers is what I'm saying. The internet's there. There's go take a class.
There's a lot of free stuff out there.
If you run a Burger King and you're like, man, I just don't understand why Chick-fil-A is so much better than us.
Oh, gosh.
Well, guess what? Go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And watch it. Sit down there, order a bunch of food.
Yeah.
Watch what do they do that's different.
Watch them.
It's right there. You don't need someone to tell you, hey, it's their customer service. They're so friendly.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's what I mean when I talk about make sure that you have a plan for what you want to get out of this mentorship. And I hope this was somewhat helpful. I've always had kind of a chip on my shoulder for people that try and take advantage of, they have a little bit of success and they try and exploit that and nickel and dime people and try and trick them into being part of this big group that they can all, fund their beach house that they can post pictures about. I think that's kind of irresponsible. So, anyway, this has been a little therapeutic for me.
It's good, right?
Yeah. This is good. We weren't going to do this podcast today.
I know.
I was going to do it in the morning and I was going to go home.
You're going to feel better now?
Yeah. I feel good. I'll probably go home and try and make Charlie round 2 of some dinner but my point was I said,
don't make her sit through it this time. Just call me. I'll eat the burger. Bring it to me for breakfast.
My mom was one of those amazing moms that she made food every night. That was what she did. That was what that's that generation, our parents' generation. That's what they just made different food every night. Yeah, are you kidding me?
My mom would take a pack of hot dogs. That's a little different. She'd take a whole pack of hot dogs, cut them up, some potatoes, throw it in a pot, and then I just put ketchup on them. Yep. It's simple.
But I said to my dad, Pop, when did you ever make me my own, you just made it for me, not for you, and then there's some extra. No, just for me. He said, what? I've never done that. I said, I know. I do this every night of my life. I make my kids whatever they want. And every night it's disgusting.
You ruined it.
That's crazy, can you imagine if you walked into your house every night and someone was like, hey, what can I make you for dinner? And you're like, a bacon, egg, cheeseburger? Okay, cool. Give me 5 minutes.
Take a personal chef.
But my kids, here's a cool thing. Because this podcast will forever be available on Spotify and
man.
iTunes, when they're like 25,
They'll remember this. They'll be
they're
like, man, I
like,
wish I had that cheeseburger.
gosh, I sure wish I had my dad here to cook for me.
Yep.
And they've got some
Cafeteria or
they
they're
got some
somewhere.
idiot guy that doesn't know how to cook, doesn't know how to use a grill. Probably
uses gas.
Probably has a gas
Gas grill. Yeah.
Don't come beating on my door. Till you go home for Thanksgiving, you ain't coming to my house.
Man,
gas grilling.
Don't miss that thing. Don't miss the
Hippie.
cheeseburger.
Come on, man. Using vegan cheese or something.
Oh man.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. This has been it's been a fun one. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is the Built by Vitality podcast.